focus is one of the most important resources that you have. So initially, I didn't know what product management was even, but I learned it by interacting with the product owners. And I was like, but I just got my team. Gender never felt like a factor ever.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to the second episode of our Technically Her podcast. This podcast is delivered to you by Semrush, an international tech company known for its product. Our tools help marketers all over the world to rank better on search and get ahead of their competition. We want this podcast to be a space for us to share experiences, discuss do's and don'ts, but frankly, we are not huge believers in don'ts, especially when it comes to career growth and advancement, and perhaps even inspire to take a leap. This is the space where our own women in tech, our Semrush colleagues, share their life and career stories, all so different from one another, but with one thing in common. They'll show you that the limits, if any, are only the ones we put on ourselves. My name is Jana, and I'm your host today. Welcome. Today, you're listening to our second episode, and I am super excited for our today's guest. This guest is the most senior, not in the terms of age, but actually in terms of tenure at Semrush. Please welcome Mira Rubinshtein, head of product. Mira is based in our Cyprus office. You started, 8 years ago, almost 8 years ago, as an intern in customer success in the customer success team, and now you're a head of product for one of our key directions. Mira, could you please share what the beginnings of your journey were and how they formed you in a way? Was a job in product something you always wanted to do, or it just emerged somehow naturally?
All right. First of all, thanks, Yana, for introducing me. Like, also very excited to be here. A really great initiative to have this podcast and like to choose this as a topic. So, answering your question, how all this started 8 years ago, I still was a student. I was my last year of university, and I was basically searching for like a job to combine it with my studies. And that's a hard thing to do. And I applied for customer support role back then because it was the Australian night shift. So I could combine working during night and during the day to study. Sounds hard, and that actually was like that. It was pretty challenging. So I was balancing like university studies during the day and night shifts at work, a very intense schedule. But despite the hardship, I felt really captivated by this like tech industry in this topic and like investigating all of these cases. And I had to deal a bit with the product as well. And from that moment, I realized this is something I want to work on more. I want to get in depth this topic. So that's how it started.
And it's interesting because we chatted the other day and you mentioned that at that point when you started, you were the youngest or one of the youngest employees at Semrush, which is a lot to say.
I've been told that. I've been told that like at that moment when I applied, there was nobody who was like younger than me. And I thought like, oh boy, what did I sign up for? But despite me having like other options, like Semrush was not only one option. Back then I was going to interviews, checking different companies. I really liked the vibe of the company. It was like it felt really like innovative, young, also like everybody being so motivated and open. So I get instantly like dragged by that. Like, okay, it's a place you want to be. Like, I really like the positive energy here.
Yeah, I would like to ask you what changed in these 8 years, but maybe let's not go that direction.
That's another topic. I think I grew up with Semrush. Semrush was growing, and it was also like my 20s basically. And I was also like growing up. So it's funny, like, how it turned out.
Yeah, since you bring it up, like, how would you describe your career journey at Semrush? So you were growing up with the company, as you say, right? But was it like a certain plan in your head back then at the start? Like, oh, I want to go that direction, or I want to pursue this career path, or rather, it was like a chain of opportunities coming up.
Yeah, I think kind of both. First of all, there were a lot of chain of opportunities because of the company growing.
Mhm.
But also I was just doing whatever seems like I was curious about, like
Mm.
so initially I didn't know what product management was even, but I learned it by interacting with the product owners. So for agent, you have to ask them about a question, bring some features, and like by just interacting with these people, I really like, oh,
Yeah.
I like your mindset. They're so like interesting. And I started eager to explore this career path. And
Mhm.
after I graduated, finally, I had some more time to focus on that. And I started to apply for different like internal educations at Semrush. It was opportunity back
Mm.
then. It was a lot about like management, soft skills, agile, all of those back then new topics. And I was fascinated by it. And I think it's not only the knowledge that was there shared with us, but also the group dynamic, because they're
Mhm.
different part of Submerge, like different organizations, some of management, engineers, designers were part of these study groups, let's say, and
Yeah.
you have to do to interact with those people, change ideas, like see how everybody's motivated, and it's also been, I think, a big step forward to learn from other people like that.
Yeah, and it's actually a very, very good point. We don't talk about it enough. I feel like that a lot of people do not perceive these opportunities within the company that they could learn from others, maybe like ask others to mentor them or ask others to guide them to share their know-how, right? And at SEMrush, especially back in the day when we were smaller, it was just so easy. You knock at the door and you approach another colleague in another team and you're like, oh, could you guide me through this process?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And like, I remember also back then I had my like first leadership stuff. Like I applied for team lead and support, and initially I was seen as too green.
Uh-huh.
But like I convinced my manager that I was ready, and I think part of this convincing, what helped me was in one of the study groups, I shared the situation with the others. Like, hey, I have the situation, want to be your like a team leader, but I was turned down. And they're like, okay, let's talk about it. Like talk from this side and that side. And that really actually helped me to have the different mindset about it. Me tackle like, this different made my manager realize, okay, maybe I'm ready. Even though I'm so young, maybe it's so like could handle that. And it turned out I did.
You got the role.
I got the role. Yes. I got the role. Like everybody been much older than me. So it's pretty challenging. I was really like nervous about it. But once I started to get into that, I realized I really like it. Or I really like the whole like management, like optimizing, finding like strategic solutions. I
Yeah.
just felt that it's just my field. So from that on, I just transitioned from this role of like tactical to like team lead and support. I transitioned to project management,
Mhm.
and it was like within product teams. So, and I handle like everything from user research to engineering coordination. It was extremely challenging, but I really liked it. I learned a lot on the way, and um, the role also was like incredibly diverse, like in terms of what you do. So you can
Mhm.
get a little bit of skill of everything.
Yeah, what interests me here is because you describe as if it was such an easy thing, you know? One day I decided to switch to product owner and I did. But I'm pretty sure that it was quite a path or it was there were challenges along the way. And I remember a few years ago we actually did this Instagram post with you about horizontal growth just because you were one of these amazing people at Semrush who I didn't dared, who just went out, you know, from their initial team instead of growing vertically within the team, you know, like getting higher and higher in the rank, who kind of risked in a way, or you just left what you've already known and you pursued something completely different and completely new. So you've grown into a different direction, into a different department. How it was for you this transition? How did you actually dare just like that?
Oh, all right. That's a cool question. I think I never thought about it myself, but I think I just followed my interests, what I'm curious about,
Mhm.
and that was always my like the engine that kept me running. So at some point, like when you stay within the same team or you do the same thing, like when the new information pops up, like or new field or something, it and you don't know anything about it, but like it
Mhm.
really captivates your interest, so you want to dig deeper into that, you know? So
Yeah.
I think in a nutshell, that was it. Like I, especially in the project management, we were launching a lot of different campaigns that I was like managing from project management standpoint. But I was always like from product side, I was like, how did they do that? Like, okay, I want to know more about it. So I was like, I remember we had one project about like machine learning algorithm. Back then it was less advanced than right now. So it was something like, let's say new. And I was like, okay, how does this algorithm works? And like, what is if I don't know, you do differently? Okay. And I was really looking into that. I remember even watching some videos about the computer like modeling to understand it better even. And
Mhm.
I was like, okay, I understand like 30% of what is happening, but I still keep watching. This kind of feeling. I'm not a night
Yeah.
person, unfortunately. Wish I was. But yeah, just following your interest and not to be afraid to fail forward, I guess. So
Mhm.
asking dumb questions. Of course, they're going to be dumb in the beginning, but
Yeah.
uh, step by step, you get a better understanding, more wide view, and you can actually get a really good understanding of things. And this is how I got there.
All right. So now we're in the product and you're a product owner, right? How
Yeah.
from there did you end up on the head of product role? Because I know that this transition was quite fast forward as well. So it was not that you were waiting for the role for years. You actually you just transitioned very, very rapidly.
That's true. It came out of blue. I didn't expect it at all. Basically, it was a restructure. I just recently became product owner. I mean, I've been doing some of the product owner job already before, but then I officially got my team. The one I already worked before, really liked my favorite team.
Mhm.
Um, and I was okay. Let's get to this. We can improve my product now. And then from 2, 3 months later, I got offered the head of product role because there was a restructure. There was a new direction, like product growth that opened,
Yeah.
and they were looking for somebody. And I was basically matching all their like skills, those hard and soft skills. And that's why I was offered it. And I was like, but I just got my team I wanted to work with.
Mhm.
So it was actually it was really flattering that I was offered it, but also it was a bittersweet, because I really like my team. Was really looking forward to working with them, and I had to leave them and to go to work as a head of product, which was amazing step for my career. Like back then, it was actually a bit hard decision.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. But it's just so fascinating to listen, like from that first team lead role when you had to prove to your manager, that you're capable, that you could lead the team, to the switch to head of product, where it was your manager proving you that you're capable, right? That you
That's
can do it, giving your
absolutely.
confidence. That's amazing. And all this within what, 4 years, 5 years?
About it,
But
so I would say,
about that.
yeah.
And I'm curious to hear from you if during this whole career journey, like quite an intense career journey, there was a given moment, a given time where you felt that as a woman, perhaps you're not given the same opportunity as others. Or maybe you missed out on an opportunity that was there for you. It sounds like actually all the opportunities that were there for you, you grabbed, but maybe I'm mistaken. So curious to
Yeah.
hear.
Yeah, like before Semrush, I worked in industries, like TV and cinema industry actually, where gender bias were really common. Like, so it's
Okay.
something you do see on a daily basis. And when I came at Semrush, I was like really surprised because I experienced like a completely different culture. Like gender never felt like a factor ever. Like, no, somebody would bring it up or somebody would have a different approach to me because of that. I always felt valued for my skills, ideas, and my contributions, and not a gender. And
Okay.
I think I am really spoiled in terms of that. I cannot I cannot take it differently now. You know what I mean? Like once you know that, you're not ready to settle for something else. So, and I also had like you see around Semrush, you see a lot of like strong female role models, and it's a really great example that you see. Like, okay, it could be different. So I'm really grateful for such a nice environment that I got in, and I could, learn from it also. Yeah, that's my takeaway of this.
Since you mentioned your role models, I was thinking maybe there was some advice or some kind of like guidance given to you throughout your career from this role models or other role models. I don't know, like how to proceed. Something that some takeaways from their wisdom, I guess, and their career path.
But yeah, I mean, definitely, there've been like a lot of in the way, women with a really like great career path, and they can learn a lot from them. But there wasn't like one strong female role that particularly like I want to stand out. It was a like former senior VP, and she mentored me during like my early leadership stages. Let's say, like when I became a project manager, and like I've been working closely with her in a lot of
Yeah.
projects, and I was just soaking in everything she was saying. To be honest, like really like a sponge. So I learned a lot of key lessons from her, and most of them are not even about like business management. So they're more about how to keep your life together. Like how to don't get overwhelmed, how to focus on what matters. You prioritize something that doesn't matter. Let go of the rest. Like really about the focus. And this is something you can apply anywhere, I guess. And this is a key skill, I believe, to really get successful somewhere. And I also feel supported, seen, and empowered to grow, but by everybody around. Like all of the leadership that I had been very supportive and always offering help and offering giving guidance. And this is what I really also appreciated Semrush, because like I can at any time go to our CPO and say, hey, I want just to consult with you. And he would be like super chill and calm and like really help me out, hear me out. And like it's always very helpful. And I really like that it's still available. You know what I mean? Like it's still like a really nice source to get better, to just to get your horizon, broader.
Yeah. Well, that's a good it's a good point and actually a good piece of advice, right? About not getting overwhelmed with everything. Like, at this stages of your career, sometimes the advice you want to receive is not how to proceed faster, but rather how to stay safe, throughout this proceeding.
Yeah.
How to still remember your private life, how to keep the balance going, right? It's tricky, especially when you grow so fast and you kind of like get more and more responsibilities. It's easy to get overwhelmed.
For sure. And focus is one of the most important resources that you have. Because if you think about it, a lot of things are fighting for our focus right now. Like starting from your phone, all of the like around things. You need to balance your personal life, work, and like if you lack of focus, all of the other things will fall apart actually. So you really need to know how to manage that.
Yeah. If I were to write down something from this podcast, from this episode, this would be it. Focus is everything. So keeping the focus, I also wanted to ask you from the very start, was this role that you're currently in now, or like in general, leadership role, something that you dreamed of from the very early age? Was it? I mean, it's probably not everybody's child dream or nobody's child dream to become a head of product. You don't think about it like when you're 5 or 10. But did you actually want to become a leader, a manager? Right? Did you want to lead larger team. Maybe that was something that was in you from that childhood, from the early age.
Yeah, that's a spot on question. I guess I had this urge, let's say, from early years because of my parents and the examples that they said, because they're both like self-made entrepreneurs, started from 90s in Russia, which was like, let's say one of the most challenging times in my opinion. They are like built their business from the ground and I witnessed it as a child. So I guess there was the role model also for me. Both my mom also, like, it's not only my dad, they're like in partners together. So so I never thought I would just like sit around and don't like act on, you know what I mean? Like I always had that in me. And even sometimes I mean I thought I would be a businesswoman, to be honest. And sometimes I still feel like internal pressure to start my own business, even though like I like immensely what I do. But from time to time, I have explored like other, like side projects, especially after moving from a well-developed city, St. Petersburg, to a relatively small one right now in Cyprus. I was like looking around me and I can see all these opportunities for improvements and like almost at every corner, like, okay, this would be a nice business or that would be a nice business. So it's really sometimes, it's an urge that I have. I'm still fighting it. Let's see, maybe that would be a next step. For now, I'm trying to balance with my like full-time job and my lifestyle that I've chosen and keep my sanity. To have on top another business, I think would be too much. I focus now on being more present, like balanced, aligned with my values. But we see how it goes.
Since we're getting towards the end of our podcast, I would like to ask you maybe just a very last question towards the end. We've shared a lot of great takeaways, a lot of great advice that you gained throughout your career journey. But is there one advice that you would give? Because I feel like now you're definitely in the position to give advice and recommendation, to mentor as well, because you were mentored during your path, but now you're a head of product. And I think that a lot of people look up to you and would love to hear what you think. What is the most important on this journey?
Wow. I don't. I would say there is like one piece of advice, but I would say overall, it's just like to stay curious. Like just to follow your interests and to not follow your fear. Like because I think fear is very often what drags us down, pulls us down, and like
Yeah.
you need to face also the fear with curiosity. Like, okay, it looks like have cold feet here. Why that would be? And like to explore that and just to embrace it maybe. And from that to find a growing point and just to stay curious and ask questions about how the things around you work, how you can improve them. So just to always have an open question already helps to move forward like 90% in my opinion. Um, so yeah, I guess that's my advice. Maybe it's too simple. I don't know, but that worked for me.
Love it. That's a great advice. So don't let the fear dictate your life and your life choices in a way, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mira. It was really a pleasure talking to you as always. And it was really interesting to learn a little bit more about your career path. I knew something, but I didn't know all the details. And I didn't know about all these opportunities and this incredibly rapid career growth that happened to you. Well, I wish you all the best in your endeavors and your future endeavors at Semrush, and maybe also some improvements of what you see needs to be improved in Cyprus. We keep our fingers crossed for that. And quoting your own words, I'd say stay focused.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. I mean, I really enjoyed it and it was really nice to talk. Wish we had more time, but I hope it helps out there somebody to hear these words and realize that it's possible. You can make it the way you want it.
For sure. Thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast, and we'll hear each other in the next one. Bye.